I have the privilege of introducing Mary Beth. She came all the way from Louisiana, so we're excited that she's here. She flew in yesterday. So let's go ahead and welcome Mary Beth to the stage, and we're excited to hear from you.
Thank you for letting me be here. I thoroughly enjoyed being at the conference already, even though I wasn't able to play with y'all last night. Okay, online classes. A lot of you probably, and I'd like to know how many have online classes at their university. Okay, there's almost the majority of you. Well, as we go through, we've ran Northwestern in Natchitoches, Louisiana, which if any of you saw Steel Magnolias, you got to see Natchitoches because that's what Chicky Pen is. It's Natchitoches. And what we did is we asked our students to send us pictures and tell us where they were going to be and what they were doing for their online classes. So we had people from all over that sent various pictures showing where they did their studies or what they did and sent these to us. But the beauty of the online class is no matter where your instructor is or no matter where the student is, as long as you have internet access, you can work your class. Now, I have had students that have had problems on cruises. They couldn't get as much of the internet as they wanted, or that they were not able to do some of the, proctors and different things of this nature that they needed. So there are some things that you have to work out. And of course, as we know, each individual class is different. So how do you create an online program? There are three things that are very important: the administration, the IT services, and the faculty and staff. If one of these is missing, you're not going to be able to make your program work. The administration has to be willing to allow you to develop these classes. They have to give you training, and they have to allow funding for the program. They're not always cheap, but how many, I told y'all at the beginning that I do a camp, okay? And I'm usually busy with kids from 8 to 5. So it makes it where if I do an online class, I can get up an hour or two early, answer any questions, and go through. And then at the end of the day, I can answer my questions if there's any that are needed. All my preparation has to be done ahead of time because it's got to be ready for the student whenever they log in. Some are going to finish in a matter of weeks. Some are going to finish right off. I had one student that had the trial copy of My IT Lab, and she was able to finish the entire class before her trial ran out. So there's a lot that has to be done there. And all of you know when you give direction, that darn English language, what it can do to you. You think you are so clear, and the student can be so confused. And you have to be there to answer. That's the only, I'm going to say, disadvantage for an instructor on the online class, is because most people tend to do their work after work. So they want to be there. They want to do it, get up in the morning and do it. They want to be able to do it at night. They want to be able to do it on holidays. They want to be able to do it on weekends. Well, if you don't answer their questions, they can't complete their work. Our school has a 24-hour return rate that we have to do. We're supposed to be able to answer any emails within 24 hours if we're going to be an online instructor. So we're going to go next to our IT program. We've got your information technology has to be dealing with your server, your network, and your IT positions. This is the one part that I don't worry about, okay? I have the most wonderful Alfred that answers all my questions when I have a problem. I don't have to worry if the computers are going to be there and ready to go. I swear I've told my husband of 50 years plus that it was in my contract that I don't even have to load the program. He has to upload my programs. He has to have everything ready. It's sort of like getting on the tractor to bale hay. I can cut hay and rake hay with the best of them, but I'm not going to check the oil. I'm not going to check the fuel. I'm going to get on the tractor and go. And that's the same thing that most of us want. So having an IT program is basic. It's just necessity. And when I got ready to do this presentation, I had to go see our IT program because I wasn't going to be able to answer any questions on it. I couldn't tell you what our capacity was. I couldn't tell you what anything was. I can tell you we use Moodle and that all of our work is uploaded there. And I can go through the faculty training, and I can even do the administration because I had to work with my administrator way back when we wanted to do the very first class for online. But this part, not my cup of tea. So when I went to see them, they told me that we were going to have the clusters. And this is what we're going to do here, and this is what they're going to show. And they went through all of it, and they gave me all of this little good things. They told me my processors, they told me my terabytes, they told me what I needed for raw storage. And all of that sounds good, and we need all of that, and we have to have it. Because one of the things that we have found in our CIS program and the business programs is that if we teach online, there are programs that our students can't afford to buy. They shouldn't have that extra expense. So what we have is what's called a virtual desktop. And they can log in and they can come to that desktop. And when they do, they will find those programs that are needed. Whether they're dealing with the app class, whether they're dealing with network classes, or wherever they are. If it's a special program that is needed, they are able to go to our desktop, log in, and use those programs. These are ones that most people don't have on their home computers. So that's one of the big things there that we have. Making the service more efficient, we know that we have to, as all of you are aware, you know that we have to go through, and we've downsized if you think about it. By that, what we're talking about is we went, I don't know how many of you would go back to the TRSL 80s, but I do. And I don't know how many of you did the punch cards. I did. Okay, so we had all of that, and the computer would take up the whole room, and you had to keep it cold. And now, I laughed when I went in. Ron, our chief information officer, says, "You're going to be disappointed. There's not much to see." He says, we don't need it all anymore. It's all downsized. So what happens is that as you go through, you've got to have somebody that knows how to do all of these good things. So at Northwestern, we have 4 campuses that right now are working with our online students. We have the main campus and 3 satellites. They've got over 10,000 network ports for the computers, the printers, and the telephones. And then we've got our wireless access points. I coordinate the testing at all of these satellite campuses. That's one of my jobs. And what I do is I get in touch with the people there. I make sure that we can have the hours that the students have the contact information. So we're sort of rural. Well, we're not sort of rural, we are rural. And what happens is our network connections are not always the best. At our university campuses, they are. But the student has what they may be using Usenet, they may be using Suddenlink, they may be using, some of them have AT&T. I have AT&T fiber optic that goes in front of my house, and I cannot get on it. I'm not allowed to hook up. So this happens all over. So we have to make sure that what we offer, the student can do. Whenever we say internet access, sometimes the internet access is so slow, things won't load up. So as we go through, we want to make sure that our classes will allow the student to do. We've got 27 positions on our IT department, and all but 2 are located in Natchitoches at our main campus. 2 of them are at a satellite campus in Shreveport, Louisiana, if you've heard of that little town. So whenever we talked earlier, you remember I told you I wanted to get on that tractor and I wanted it to go, I don't want it to do. Well, when the student gets ready to do their work, they may only have an hour or 2 to do that work. So what happens if you lose power? If Northwestern loses power, what's going to happen to that student? Are they going to be able, they're just going to be stuck? What you've got is you've got batteries that are working for 24 hours that are backup, and then you've got a generator, a diesel generator that comes through. And this you have to have these things. I had not even thought of this, to be honest with you. Never entered my mind. You know, if I'm without electricity, I can't get on at my house. But what if Natchitoches is out of electricity? What's going to happen then to all these people that are in various areas? So you've got to have your backup here. And that's one of the important things that we need. Once again, I use that word assume. I just assumed that it was always there, that it wasn't a problem. But whenever I went to visit the IT program, I found out why it wasn't a problem. Then you come to your faculty and staff. There was a good number of you that raised your hands that y'all taught online classes, and that's great. I probably wouldn't be teaching still if I were not doing online. I have both traditional and the online class. And whenever I started doing the online, we needed some training, and our electronic and continuing ed program, or Northwestern, had none. We actually took classes from UCLA that were there. And how many, just out of curiosity, how many of you have ever taken an online class? Very good. Then you know what the problem is, don't you? I can remember taking one because I think it was dealing with, and I can't remember the exact name, but it was dealing with your rights as an online teacher or an instructor. What happened there? What could you do? And one of the assignments, I couldn't figure out what in the world they wanted. And honestly, the individual that responded to me, my instructor, was not a very nice person. He didn't want to answer my questions. He says, it's there in black and white, do it. And I thought, all right. And I did it, and it was not what he wanted, to be honest with you. Because the way I read it one way, and the way he had wanted it was a completely different way. So then when I said that darn English language at the very beginning, I was serious. There's different ways to interpret. You know, put the period behind the T. And then somebody will say, which T? You know, you think it's clear. You think you have made it just where they cannot possibly not know. And only by experience and answering their questions can you really make sure they understand. So the faculty has to be on board. And whenever we did ours, you can see that we had various classes that were not dealing with business, that were not dealing with CIS, that we had to have. So if you didn't have your math people, your English, your science, your social studies, if you didn't have these people on board, you couldn't offer a degree in your CIS program or in any program because you had to have the core classes there. So we had, whenever we started and we were going to get our program together, we had to go to each of these departments and make sure that they would provide these classes for us. So it's something that has to be done. Our faculty now, they don't have to go to UCLA or anywhere else. They can do right there on campus, and they have to go through a boot camp. They have to actually answer the questions, they have to take the class, and it's not done over a semester, it's only done over a few weeks. But if you look at here, you can see that we have different classes on this one that are different programs. So our ECE, our Electronic and Continuing Education, gives us this. They provide us up to date. And this is their job, one of their things that they do. Now, I'm going to tell you a little story about this picture. We do almost all our training now by WebEx. How many of you have used WebEx? Should be a bunch of you. WebEx is wonderful as far as I am concerned. But they do most of their training by WebEx. And I asked for a picture. I says, I need a picture of y'all doing the training. They said, we don't have one. I says, oh, darn, I've got to show something on the slide. I said, I'm attending the WebEx training on July 2nd because I wanted to see what was happening with the personal room and to see if it was going to be something I needed to do. She says, we'll take care of you. So all the staff from ECE, or most of them, got together and they made a picture for me. They said, we did this special for you. So this is our ECE staff. They're the ones that are there and do the training. They offer training every single month, okay? Some of it is something that may be ages old, how to do something in Moodle, how to just get started. Quality matters. We had to go through and our classes have to meet certain standards. But you can see that there's also new things that they offer. Now, WebEx was not that new, and I use it a lot. I just needed to be brushed up on seeing if my personal room needed to be there. Our faculty and staff get together, and we have probably, and everybody toots their own horn, one of the best faculty staff. These instructors and professors go out into the community, and even the online students have to go out into the community. They've got their experiential learning. They have to do a project, a community project that is approved by their professor. They have to do one that relates to the computer information system. We've had people that have worked with school boards. They've worked with doing their rerouting the bus route to make it the most efficient. We have them that do web pages. We have them that do training like in our Council on Aging programs that go out and do. We also have an opportunity for them to help students do like through an hour of code or the coding club or robotics. We have all of these things. This picture shows a young man in the middle there trying to figure out what they're doing. That young man is my grandson. Nicholas has cerebral palsy and is legally blind. Intellectually, he's fine. He sometimes can't grasp something as quick as the others because just can't comprehend, but he can do, and he loves this one. He loves the hour of code. He's able to go and to do his virtual realization. He's able to go see a lot of things, but a lot of it has to be one-on-one. This gives our students also, Nicholas shared the need for special needs kids, and these students don't get to see that very often. Whenever he walked into the hour of code, one kid says, will he ever get well? When's he going to be able to not use his cane? If they don't come in contact with these, they don't have any experience. But this little student right here was able to help Nicholas see and to figure out what to do with the help of the instructor, the professor that was there. And that's something that is unbelievable, really, whenever our students go out. There's another one here on the help desk, another program presenter that's going to be doing. During our hour of codes and these things that we have here, we have help desk also. We have the students that sit out and will answer questions about phones, about the computers, and do some simple repair work. These are things that when the student learns to do this, it makes them a better person. You have to realize that these students sometimes like their little cubbyhole. They like their little comfort zone, and that's where they want to be. So when you make them get out of this comfort zone and present or to interact with different ones, it makes it better for when they get out into the workforce. Because most of the times you have to interact with someone. You can't just sit in your little island. And we have found that some of our computer students, that's what they tend to want to do. They want to just sit. They want to just work on that program. They don't want anybody, any distraction. Just let them sit there and do. And that's not always the way it can be in the workforce. So with our business classes that we have and the things that we do, we are able to try to make them a well-rounded person. And we think that's one of the big things there. Northwestern has gotten several accolades with theirs as we go through. You can see the different ways that have come our way. These were unsolicited. These are things that they just did. This shows the things what is important, whether it's the cost of the education, whether it's the response time, whatever it happens to be. These are things that we have been recognized for. So I'm real proud, and I toot our own horn here, because I was one of the ones that started the very first online undergraduate class. And I can remember going out whenever we were doing, and we would go to them and say, take our class and you don't have to come to Northwestern one time this summer. You can just stay at home, go to the beach, do whatever. And that's how we did it. And that was way back, in the 1990s, early 1990s. So we're talking about a long time ago that we did this. This is my class right here. This is what my class looks like. And if you look at my class up here, you can see that I have, clearly they're going to know that they're in the right class. They've got my name. We've got announcements. Announcements are how we communicate with everyone. And I am one of the ones that I like to have old announcements. And I've just placed, as I take my announcements down, I put them there. And actually, when I put up the new announcement, I put it in the old announcement folder. That way it immediately goes to the student by email. So not only do they come into their class and see it, but they can see it by email. And one of the things here is you'll note that I have congratulations to my students that have passed the MOS Excel exam. This is the summer class that I was teaching while I was doing my summer camp with horseback riding and swimming. I had 17 students. I actually have one that I didn't add because he was a little late getting to take the test. He happened to be on a cruise at that point in life when I gave it. So we worked with him and he came back, he took it and he made an A in the class. But I have 4 that didn't take it. And I let those 4 know I think we've done really well. We have gotten where now we purchase the voucher for the MOS exam. And we include all of this in the lab fee. That way, the student has it already paid for. It was paid for through financial aid. All of this type. And that's important because we were having issues that the student couldn't afford the voucher at the end of the semester, whatever it needed to be. So we included in there. So now, like those 4 that didn't take the test, I email them and I'll say, you have paid for this. You have already done it. You can complete this amount of work and at least get a C in the class. Because we have our classes where you can get credit, our 98Zs, where you can get credit if you have certifications. And a lot of times the student will come with several certifications. So if you're going to give them credit, let's give these students an opportunity to do it also. You would be surprised how few take me up on that. And it's so sad. As a grandparent or as a parent, we send ours to school, and our grandchildren, we have one that's going there. I would want that opportunity for my children so that we didn't waste our money on one class that they didn't do. You can see how we go here. So I'm real proud of those. So you can see here how we've got it done. It's there with your course information, your syllabus, your course activity sheets. All of this is visible right there. You go down, there's my Moose schedule. You can go down and see the chapter. When my students come to class on the first day, which is usually 2 days before the semester actually begins, I have everything there for them. I have That course activity sheet shows exactly when everything is due. My assignments are there. They can look over and they can say, oh my God, she asked for way too much. I'm not going to take her. And they can drop the class. Or they can say, okay, I can do this. And then they'll go through and you can see that they will be able to complete the assignments. Once again, we are big on working with our students if there is a hurricane. We've had a lot that have gotten caught in the hurricanes, and then you have to work with them. There's always medical emergencies that happen in the family that with a lot of them that you have to. And then there's one of them this summer says, I thought this was an 8-week course. You mean it was a 4-week course? Of course, you had told them it was a 4-week course. They signed up for a 4-week course, but you work with them. And I think that's one of the big things that we have learned to do. But we didn't learn that just from somebody telling us. We learned it from like what you were doing. You said y'all had taken online courses. So we learned it from experience. If we didn't like what our instructor was doing, we maybe made that change for our students and made it where they would like it. And I think that's one of the big things. I think somebody that comes in that tries to teach an online class that has no experience with an online class sometimes doesn't realize what the students are experiencing in reading. So we think that is extremely important. This is the URL for my school, www.nsula.edu, and you can certainly see everything that's there. Once again, these courses, the student goes to My NSU from this URL and is able to see their courses and see what they're enrolled in. Sometime you have to have the training, but once again, our students also have what's called a boot training, and they can go through and look at how a class is basically set up. Now, all of our classes are not set up the same. Don't think that I'm saying that every class looks like this one. My husband also teaches online, and he uses a completely different format. But all the basics are there. That's where Quality Matters comes in. All the basics. You have to have course information. You have to have assignments. You have to have getting started. You've got to have your announcements. The things, how you put them in is left up to you, the instructor, because each one of us has our own method of teaching, just like in a traditional class, you don't teach the same way as I would or something of this nature. So once you go there, you want to be sure, though, that your online students are getting the same information and the same opportunities that your traditional students. That's the reason that if we require community service, it's not just for a traditional student, it's for the online student as well. Validity is another thing that is of extreme importance. Validity, we don't want a glorified, just left me, class where you do a correspondence class. We want it to be where there's interaction. We want the student to experience it. We have what's called registration roundup at Northwestern. We have registration roundup in our department. We're one of the few departments that do. But our students online can participate too. They can have their schedule with their advisor. They can send in that schedule and they can be a part of it. They can't do the games that we do, but they can be a part of knowing what's happening. They can be a part in the drawings for the prizes. In short, we want to let them have as much of the university experience as possible. And these are things that you might want to bring in, is getting your students involved. Because sometimes if they're just out there, they're not sure that they're really a part of the university. And you want them to know that they are there. Okay, I think I'm moving a little too fast, but we're going to move on. Okay, there's my email address. If any of you would like a copy of the slide presentations, I don't think I brought quite enough, but I would be glad to send you a copy of this slide presentation. It has my notes at the bottom, so you'll be able to see what I've said or done, and so you've got that. If you have any questions, if you think of it, sometimes it happens a little later. What's involved in your boot camp might be a question that somebody could ask where you take the class. How detailed is it? Can you give me some information? Can you get me in touch with your education, your electronic and continuing education department so that I can work with them and maybe see something that we could do at our university or school or technical college? There's all of these things that we would love to share with you. We just need to know that what questions you have or what you want, and then we'll respond. I'm one of the old ones. I've probably taught over 50 years. In fact, I know I've taught over 50 years. I had high school before I went to college. I finally graduated and was able to go to college. And I found that I teach what I call the baby classes. These are the ones for the freshmen and the sophomores that are still trying to get themselves together. And maybe that's why I baby them a little bit. I try not to baby too much because I want them to accept responsibility. I think they need to know that. But I also know a comment was made out there about the changes that happen. So whenever I set my online class up, don't think it's there forever. Because what happens is we have new things that come about that we have to do. One of the classes I'm teaching right now is called Understanding and Using the Internet. It really is a baby class. It's where you put signatures on emails. It's where I introduce WebEx, is where I introduce chat, where they learn a little bit about networking, and we do the IC3. We do the IC3 Living Online, only the Living Online. But this gives them an introduction to things, and I've even had people that have taken it that have said, I thought I knew all of this stuff. Because we just cover the surface sometime when we're there, it has to be. We have our validity test again, once again, that IC3, the MOS, the CompTIA, these that are all out there that went through. I was telling, I think it was Aubrey, as we did way back, I did the 2050, which was a CIS program that was hardware software. It's supposed to be shared between the IT department and the business department, and as it turned out, it was all mine. And LabSim was what we started out with. And it was wonderful, because where else could I couldn't find anything else that even compared to it for my online students to be able to do. The IT department wanted them all to come into their classroom and break down the computer and do everything. But this didn't meet our online students' needs. They couldn't come in. They couldn't take a computer apart. They didn't have someone there. So this way they were able to do it. And it was unbelievable. And my dean was so excited about it. And it's just been a good program for us. It really has. So there are things like this that are out there that allow people to come back to school, that allow people to find degrees, get their degrees, and be able to take care of their families. The online component has really come a long way, and it's not a glorified correspondence course. It has to be like they're sitting there in your classroom. So if there are no questions, thank you.